Welcome to the Clinton Presidential Center. Thank you all for joining us today as we celebrate the wonderful success of this extraordinary temporary exhibit, Washed Ashore, Art to Save the Sea. Before we actually begin the program, I hope you will join me in thanking a few people first. Let me recognize our very appropriate exhibition sponsor, the Regional Recycling and Waste Reduction District, and I'm so pleased Executive Director Craig Douglas is here with us today. Craig, where are you? Oh, right in front. Thank you so much. We also have several event hosts that are here, and I believe the names are going to be on the screen. We are very grateful to all of you as well for supporting this timely exhibit and all the educational programming and our wonderful reception we're going to have this afternoon. So thank you to all of our reception sponsors today. And I would like to recognize a few other special people. I believe Governor Jim Guy Tucker and Betty Tucker here today. Great to have you with us as always, Governor. And in addition to being our longest standing, most generous sponsors of our programs and our exhibits and our work at the Clinton Foundation, Beth and Mike Colson, I believe, are here too. They're also the founding sponsors of our Bridge Builders Lecture Series that we unveiled this year. So very, very special thanks to Beth and Mike. And last but not least, my partner in crime, the director of the Clinton Library, Terry Garner. And I'm also extremely thrilled that we're joined today by the creator of Washed Ashore, Angela Haseltine Pozzi. She is obviously a remarkable artist, and her art has a very, very powerful message, and we're going to be hearing her story in just a few moments. And pretty great that President Clinton is here today, too. Thank you so much. Like many of us in the room here today, President Clinton is a native Arkansan, and I really believe that growing up in the natural state set the stage what has been his lifetime commitment to protecting our environment. The Clinton administration prioritized efforts to safeguard essential bodies of water, and President Clinton signed crucial pieces of legislation and key executive orders designed to improve water quality, protect wetlands and coast, and reduce waste while encouraging recycling and increasing the use of recycled products. And since leaving office through the Clinton Foundation, he has continued to put a priority on protecting the environment and making more communities more resilient against the devastating effects of climate change. When we learned about the Washed Ashore exhibit, we knew it would really be a perfect marriage, marriage made in heaven for the Clinton Center. Because in addition to providing access to our many visitors from around the world to incredible art of all kinds, historical documents and artifacts, compelling speakers and educational programs, we put a premium on inspiring civic engagement and service. And Washed Ashore has given us an incredible opportunity to encourage people to engage in protecting the environment, inspiring them to change their behaviors, especially when it comes to single-use plastics, and connect them with service opportunities like the Great Arkansas River Cleanup and Friends of Fish Creek. So, and in addition to this powerful message, I personally think this is one of the most beautiful exhibits of sculpture we've ever had at the Clinton Center. It is breathtaking. Yes, it does deserve a round of applause. It's really unique when you're standing far away and you're walking up to the Clinton Center and you see that beautiful, colorful fish in the fountain. You think, wow, what an incredible sculpture. Is that chihuly? Is that glass? What is that? And then when you get up close and you see, that it's really entirely made of trash, it's extraordinary. And we are so pleased to have this extraordinary artisan and powerful environmental activist with us today, Angela Haseltine Pozzi. Let me welcome her, and please join me in welcoming her to the podium. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, and it is a real pleasure and a real treat to be here today and to have a chance to speak to everyone and visit the exhibit again, which is really fun to put up, and of course to have President Clinton here. So what I'm going to do is since I'm a visual kinesthetic person, I'm going to be showing you a PowerPoint with images, giving you a little bit of where we've been, where we are now, and where we're headed as Washed Ashore. And we really are a civically minded organization as a nonprofit. So when I have talked to people about coming to the Clinton Center, some people would say, so why are you going there? And I'd say, oh, there's so many parallels. There's so many things that Clinton has done in his presidency, and there's so many values that we share. And so I started looking at that, and I really realized the whole idea of public service has always been a part of my life, and certainly an important thing that President Clinton has always promoted. Also, arts education, and I have a little story to tell here. Back in, I think, year 2000, it was, President Clinton had the Presidential Commission on Arts and Humanities, where he sent out people out into the world, out into our country, to find out the best school districts, public school districts that he could, applaud. And he sent somebody to the Vancouver School District in Vancouver, Washington. And I was one of those teachers that got observed. And we got named one of the 9 best arts education school districts in the country. So thank you, President Clinton. So that was a pretty good deal. So I always kind of had this special feeling about President Clinton. Of course, I always voted for them all, but, all those Clintons. Also, just the environmental stewardship in general, and really that the good of humanity can overshadow the bad. I always tell people, everyone loves the ocean, and if we can just all come together around that, then that will help us drop those differences, and we all want to save this ocean. So there is a lot of good in humanity. Collective action is powerful. Yes, I'm going to show you some examples of that, and I do believe we have a lot of overlap there. And a determination to make a difference. And I think that's really what drove me to do this project. Basically, in 2009, this was a quote that is now on all my signs. Everyone can make the world a better place. It's the reason we are here. And I really believe that. It's just a matter of finding what it is you're going to do about that. So what I did in 2009 is I started a nonprofit called Artula Institute for Arts and Environmental Education. And I'd been an educator for 30 years in the school district and in school districts and universities. But I decided I wanted to use the power of the arts. So the mission of Artula is to provide opportunities to express and teach environmental issues through the arts. And it started as a nonprofit. And then the first project we did was Washed Ashore. Well, Washed Ashore kind of cannibalized the rest of the nonprofit because that's all we do right now. It became such a big project. So it now is sort of what we're known for, and people don't know too much about Artula, but that's going to change pretty soon. But Washed Ashore has a very strong mission, and we live and breathe by that mission, and that is to build and exhibit aesthetically powerful art. So you guys are part of our mission. We've helped exhibit here. To educate, and that's an unusual thing for the arts. Our main goal is to educate with this art. To reach a global audience, indeed, we try doing that all the time, about plastic pollution in the ocean and waterways, and to spark positive changes in consumer habits. So we want to wake people up. How did this start? Well, I moved to the ocean after a very traumatic time in my life where I lost my husband to a brain tumor and a massive stroke. When I was 47, I was a widow. And I couldn't figure out what to do with my life, so I was living in the city and being a teacher, and I decided I have to move to the ocean. The ocean is where I can heal. And I've always loved all the sea creatures of the ocean and everything, so I walked the beaches every day. And yeah, the storm of my life, I was trying to find a way to have it clear up. And I came to the ocean to heal, and what did I find? I found garbage all over the beaches. I found that the ocean needed healing. I found people picking up agates and rocks on the edges, and I said to myself, how am I going to get them to pick up that stuff? I want those people to pick up that stuff. But most people were pretty angry about everything, so they weren't interested, and they were just, not wanting to look at it, like I was for a while. I ended up doing research about the 5 different gyres in the ocean and tried to figure out how I could make a difference with that. And worldwide, the answer is, well, we need to take a lot of action. It's the world's news is not too good. I believe that everybody working together can make amazing things happen. And I decided I would tackle this problem, and maybe that'd give me a reason to live, save the ocean. That's a good reason to live. So I did all my research, found out that most of the plastics come in from land. There's so much of it. But people don't see it, they don't believe it, and a lot of facts and figures are depressing, but the fish bite fish, where you actually see the bite marks in the fish, and if people see things they recognize, it wakes them up. And the arts can have that power. They can really reach into your heart and make you want to learn, and as a teacher, I know that people don't want to learn unless, if you can't force it down their throat. But yeah, if you look across over there and see that beautiful fish, you want to look up close and go, oh my God, this is horrifying. So beautiful and horrifying is what Washed Ashore is really all about, and making personal connections. Reaching children with the environmental messaging is absolutely vital. They are our future, and they get it as soon as they see this stuff. We have an ongoing exhibit at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, and if you happen to get there, it's there for a while more. And really, it's an international language. The arts is an international language. So this is a quote that I'm sure that many people know about, but it has fueled us. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we decided to tackle it. By the way, we use 95% of all the garbage that is picked up on the beach by volunteers, and we've now processed over 25 tons into about 70 works of art. Supply and demand. I tell people everything in these garbage sculptures was once purchased by someone. So, who's going to lead that change? Education is really what it's all about, and it takes a lot of work to make the sculptures. We sort things by color. We power wash stuff. That's our yard that we work in. We have yurts and a great big 1.5 acres. And plastic comes in every color and every shape and everything that you've ever wanted. So we don't have to color it. We just save it and sort it by color so we have a good palette to work with. And of course, there's some things we just have a never-ending supply of, and that's water bottles. So we ask you to get a reusable water bottle so I don't have to see any more of those. But we have created those into thousands of people putting their hands on those and turning them into sea jellies. And by the way, we don't use zip ties because that's a single-use plastic, although would it be a lot easier? Those are all wired, stitched by volunteers. All ages are an important part of making the sculptures as well as looking at them. And we, in our little tiny town of about 3,000 people in Bandon, Oregon, we have drop-in workshops that people could come in all the time, stop in. About 14,000 people so far have worked on our sculptures, have volunteers. Collective action does make a big difference because no one person could actually make all these sculptures. It's impossible. We also have an amazing dedicated staff that help bring it all together. That's an 11-foot tall penguin that was done for Disney. I want to remind you that sometimes seemingly impossible environmental issues can be turned around by thousands of people working together. We've turned that tragedy into a bleached coral reef, and turning that disaster into something that wakes up people about the bleaching of the reefs is of what that's about. Creative problem solving is also something we promote, and I believe that's how we're going to help get out of our some of our crisis that we're in. That's how we make water right there. And resourcefulness, something that we're forgetting about teaching our kids these days, but that's an important way because I have to look at that stuff and figure out how to make a shark out of it. Research is an important part of art as well as science, and I'm telling my artists and my apprentices that all the time. I have to look at those mouths and research that and look at the attitude as well as the colors. There's some of the colors for the mouth shark. This is before I made Greta's mouth. I do all the heads and the detail work and the designing of the sculptures as the lead artist. And those are a toilet seat. As for her top teeth were made of a toilet seat, and the bottom teeth are made with a PVC pipe. It kind of looked like I had a dead hanging head in my studio. I work in a yurt, so this is really strange looking. Also, the whole idea is that people photograph themselves in front of these, and therefore we get across the world with our images, and then people have to talk about it. And the more people talk about it, the more solutions we'll have, the more research will be done. People have to be talking about the issue in order to get it solved and to get the right people to hear that say, I'm taking the charge, I'm going to do something. So we do have 4 traveling exhibits all the time that move around the country, and we do permanent pieces as well. And we have a show going up at the Oregon Zoo next. We need to do more than reduce, reuse, recycle. We taught the last of those 3 really well. Those first 2 got ignored. We also need to add refuse, especially for single-use plastics, reinvent for biodegradable, and revalue creative thinking, especially helping by getting arts education back in the schools would be nice. But also reinvest. I think we forget that reinvest is an important part of this solution. We have to reinvest into the technology that's going to get us where we need to be. We also do corporate team building workshops and connect with businesses and corporations and show that everyone coming together can make amazing things happen. We are taking steps to reach across the seas. My goal when I started Washed Ashore was to be a global project. So we have been taking steps that direction. Washed Ashore exhibited 9 pieces at the U.S. State Department in 2016. And in 2017, we were at the Ocean Conference at the United Nations, and we're able to meet people from all around the world that really want to do Washed Ashore in their country. And we have someone who calls us once a month from Ghana, West Africa, who always says, so are you ready yet? And I'm like, ah. And in order to get ready, we need to do some more things still, so we're still working on it. So Washed Ashore made the ocean gyres visible to at least over 25 million people now who have seen our work in person. Now we're ready to put a face on climate change, and I'm giving you this as the first announcement for Artula's next project. I'm doing it here today. Our next project will be focused on climate change, and I am very excited about how to put that into an artistic exhibit that will travel in a way that people will start looking at it and thinking about it. And it will be art to save the earth. In order to get us there, we will be launching a campaign next year to get of course, I'd love a building as beautiful as this, but a LEED certified base for us. Instead of having yurts and bins outside, we're going to be working on a capital campaign for that. And that will give us a chance to have global partners come in and train and have a place to come in and learn how we do our process so that we can do this project around the world. When I first started this, I said I want this to be an epidemic art exhibit. So it will just keep expanding. It'll be more art and less garbage. So I thank you for the good work of the Clinton Foundation and some of the amazing things that President Clinton has done in his wonderful time, and also allowing us to reach a new audience. It's been a huge pleasure. It's always a great fun to see people in the galleries, and if you need to get a hold of me, and go to our website, washedashore.org. We have some wonderful things there to see. And that's it. I thank you very much for the opportunity. And without further ado, I am now going to introduce President Bill Clinton.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Angela and all of you who made this exhibit possible and all of you who've come to see it. We had originally planned this in June, and I had a family obligation which prevented my coming, so I'm really glad to come. I have to confess, I basically am here as an ocean groupie. I just like to go outside and look at Priscilla when I come in. I thought, you know, I was kind of ashamed that when we were designing this library, I didn't think to put a big fish in the pond out front. I think in my foundation life, one of the things I have tried to do is to work on restoration of the oceans and building sustainable fishing around the work I did in Haiti, for example. And now the work we're doing for the Dominican Republic, for Puerto Rico and Dominica and the Virgin Islands. And one of the other NGOs that I try to support, Hillary and I do every year, is Oceana. Because when I was president, I realized that climate change was already taking away a lot of the coral reefs of the world with potentially calamitous consequences. So when this exhibit came here, I was thrilled. And we've all said this, and so this will be the sermon, but nobody will pass the plate at the end, so don't worry. I think this may be the most serious problem that people don't know much about. And I'd like to emphasize it just a little bit. 1 billion people in the world today have fish as their primary source of protein. When I went to work in Haiti after the earthquake, I was appalled to find that the fish consumption and therefore the protein intake of the average Haitian was only 10% of that of the average Jamaican, because they had more access to healthy fish, because water pollution around the edges of Haiti had basically killed off a lot of the fish population or put it way out of reach. And what's the relevance of that to everybody? What are we going to do with a world population that's still growing if the children can't get adequate protein? The other thing that I think is worth emphasizing is that our oceans absorb on any given day more than 1/4 of all the carbon dioxide emissions. It is not the most powerful greenhouse gas, but it is the most voluminous, and it takes the longest to dissipate in the atmosphere. Sometimes almost 100 years, and always about 50. So when you're thinking about climate change, you have to think about, well, how much time do we have to find a technological fix? How much time do we have to reorganize societies all over the world? How much time do we have to convince people of what they need to do and then find a way to do it that's good for the economy, not bad for the economy? It's really worth remembering that the oceans are saving our bacon every day, literally. And there are, in the oceans, at least 200,000 species, all the way down to microscopic ones that have been identified, and at least that many that have not yet been identified. I remember my last year as president, at the very bottom of the Amazon River, which is extremely deep at its deepest points, 2 new forms of marine life were discovered that had never been seen before because it's so dark down there. There is a limit to how much we can ask all these waterways to keep absorbing carbon dioxide, becoming more acidic, and producing fish. At the same time, when the biggest fishing areas of the world are already being overfished because there are so many hungry people out there who need protein. In other words, this is a fun exhibit, but it's about a very real challenge. And we all need to take it seriously. We see it in America washing up on the beaches or along our rivers and lakes in the freshwater areas like Arkansas. I'm ashamed to say when I got up this morning to walk out, I looked at the pond in the Bill Clark Reserve and there was a bunch of junk in it because somebody had no idea what they were doing. Some of it can find its way into the Arkansas River, which can find its way to the mouth of the Mississippi, into the Gulf of Mexico, and eventually into the Atlantic Ocean. We need to be more serious about this than we are. And a lot of this stuff has chemicals in it. And many of the things that we have done to the oceans to this point, some of them at least can be forgiven because we didn't know what we were doing. But one of the most heartening things, and examples that people can make a difference even if they're not filthy rich or wildly famous, is when I was working in the Virgin Islands after the hurricanes there 2 years ago. I went to, there's a national park there, which cares for not only the rainforest part of the Virgin Islands, but also the waterways around it. And I met an Indian American who was trying to help fix a big problem because they were facing pollution imbalances. And we now know that a lot of the sunscreen that we should actually have on our bodies when we go outside to prevent skin cancers, a lot of that sunscreen has in it chemical components that help us with the problems of the sun, but if we wear it into the water, it will wash off and contaminate the water. So one of our partners literally wrote me a letter about 6 weeks ago and said, we did it, we got a breakthrough, and we are now producing and trying to, on a wide scale area, sunscreen that works just as well and has no enduring chemical residue left in the water. There's something for virtually everybody to do. But this trash problem is a big problem. It's really impressive, isn't it, how many pounds they took out of the water, but you have to know that there are 315 billion pounds. 315 billion pounds of plastic contaminating all the world's oceans today. And this is a problem everywhere. This summer I had a unique experience in my increasingly long life. I was invited to go to the Åland Islands, which are in the bottom of the Baltic Sea, because a man there who had thought they ought to get a president to come to the Åland Islands invited me because he's my age, and he said he first got excited about American politics when I ran. And 30 years ago, he said, I started the Baltic Sea Fund to clean up the Baltic. He said, 30 years ago, everybody thought I was nuts. He said, today, the same people are mad at me for not spending more money because they realize that their whole way of life is up in the air if they don't maintain a cleaner sea. And these are people you say, well, they wouldn't have problems. The Åland Islands are midway between Helsinki, Finland, and Stockholm. So they must be all super green. They got serious problems. This is a global effort. So I just want to say that I'm very grateful that all those years ago you went to the sea to be healed and you realized you needed to heal the sea. And I hope that if you haven't seen the exhibit, you will go look at all these things today. It's beautiful what they've done. And I hope you will find some way to help. We cannot exist without water. When you see all these speculations now that we have these real powerful telescopes and we've identified that black hole in the universe 55 million light years away, is there life on another planet? A couple of years ago, Hillary and I went to the big island of Hawaii, and we went to see the world's largest telescope, the Keck telescope. It's over 13,000 feet high, and it's really higher than that because it's just basically the top of a mountain that begins on the ocean floor. It's taller than Mount Everest. And then afterward, they said because of the way the human eye works, we should go down 4,000 feet if we wanted to look at the night sky without, blinkers on. So I was talking to the man who runs this international scientific consortium, and I said, do you guys have serious debates about the likelihood of life on other planets? He said, oh yes, ferocious ones. I said, well, what's the range of the debate? He said, there are those of us who think it's 85% likely and those who think it's 95% likely. But he said, what no one can know because we don't have the technology to measure it yet is what we mean when we say there's life on another planet. To have developed life with sensate people doing the kinds of things that we think make life worth living, you have to have a lot of water, a lot of clean water, a lot of water that will suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and still have enough left over to nourish life itself. We are at the top of a very complicated food chain. There may be as many as 6 million species all told all over the earth. More than 4 million have been identified. It all depends on the water. And our kids get this. They are instinctive environmentalists. Grown-ups are resistant to doing some things because they're afraid it'll upset the established economic order. But the truth is, we have proved ever since the United States created the Environmental Protection Agency, ever since, every single significant effort to improve the environment has increased employment, increased the number of businesses formed, and increased not only the quality of life, but the per capita income of Americans. Every last one. And this is a massive opportunity. One of the best things we did in Haiti after the earthquake was support this massive recycling effort in gathering up of all the plastic and metal and glass, keeping it out of the water and putting it into the recycling stream. We need to be for this. And every one of you need to go back and look at these beautiful creatures captured out of all this trash and think how fortunate we were that one gifted, dedicated woman decided to turn her heartbreak into something of enduring meaning. I'm thrilled it was here. I'll be sorry when it goes. And I want to go through that skeleton one more time. So thank you for being here, and do what you can to support the work. Thank you.
Thank you, President Clinton. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, but moreover, thank you for your unwavering commitment to the environment. I always say you don't give enough credit for the things you did as president for this environment. Thank you, Angela, for creating this one-of-a-kind exhibit and for sharing it with us. President Clinton has said, do something, no matter how small it is. Angela says that every action counts. Two elegant ways to say the same thing. From the grocery store to the workplace to our homes, there are dozens of small choices we can make every single day. We need to be honest, really honest with ourselves about the way we buy, use, and discard plastic. Make a conscious decision to use reusable water bottles. I bet you won't even miss that plastic. It might seem like a ripple in the ocean, but if we all do it, it will have a major impact. You know, when I was offered the job of director of the William Jefferson Clinton Presidential Library, I never dreamt that periodically I would be asked to speak after President Clinton. It must have been under that other duties as assigned category, because he is without a doubt the explainer-in-chief and a really tough act to follow. But here's the good news. I get to tell you about the snacks. That's all I got. So please join us here in the Great Hall for a reception. And also, make sure you take the time to visit the exhibit if you already haven't. We thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.